Good morning and afternoon. It's Wednesday, 9 a.m. Pacific. Welcome all to the fourth episode of the Sharing Show in 2021. Today I'm joined with David, better known as the Workday Sharing Guy, along with Logan, Teresa, and special guests.
I want you to put in the chat what your status for the 9-9 Share-a-thon registration is. If you don't know what it is, then put a 0. If you're registered and waiting for your email, and I promise it's coming, put a 1 in the chat. If you're registered more than once, put a 2 in the chat. You only need to register once. If you will register today for the first time, put a 3 in the chat. And if you will register as soon as non-customer registration opens up, please put a 4 in the chat. And again, double check and make sure it says all panelists and attendees, because that's how you'll be able to share throughout the show. David, what do you have for us?
Hello, everybody. This is David, the Sharing Guy. I have a handshake agreement with Workday that I let everybody know that I'm no longer a Workday employee. And my views do not necessarily match up with Workday's. I'm just representing myself, as is everybody here. These share-a-thons and the sharing show, this isn't free training. It's not training. This is just knowledge sharing, mostly customers sharing with each other. I like to add on to this disclaimer. I'm on a mission to help as many Workday customers as possible. And so what I'm going to point out here separately from the previous shows, we're under 4 months now till 9/9. So I highly recommend the 9/9 Share-a-thon. You'll hear more about this on LinkedIn. For those who don't have LinkedIn, there's still ways to reach out to us. But go to the Customer Sharing Movement LinkedIn group, make sure to join that. There's also an ecosystem sharing and networking for non-customers to know about the 9/9 ecosystem share-a-thon. So to be very clear, we've got the sharing show. There's also the sharing show, and then we add networking for the second half of this hour. Together, this is the ecosystem 9/9 share-a-thon. How is that related to Purple Squirrel? And can you be a Purple Squirrel? Well, you'll have to watch past shows to understand more about what this is. And also, you should be receiving every Wednesday an email with more information coming. If you're not receiving that, you could join the Customer Sharing Movement. Shows you there on customersharingmovement.com. Click on join. This picture is showing a little bit of explaining what a purple squirrel is. First, to make sure that you're seeing the emails. If you're not getting these every Wednesday, search your emails for the word Hopyard. And then maybe all these emails are going to your spam. So what exactly is a purple squirrel? Well, this is from the last Workday Customer Networking session. It's the first Thursday of the month. In the bottom right corner, I'm highlighting here for you, a blue squirrel and a red squirrel combined makes a purple squirrel. And the blue and the red are different. One of them is what all Workday customers have is reporting and calc fields and dashboards and security and business process and integrations. That's one of the squirrels. The other squirrel is, well, which area of Workday, which module do you focus on? There's recruiting, learning, benefits, payroll, talent. So when you combine those, you become a purple squirrel. I think that's pretty clear as day. Maybe not everybody gets that. Can you be a purple squirrel? Like, how much does it cost to register for the 9/9 Share-a-thon? $9.99 billion. It's just like, you're priceless if you're a purple squirrel. The good news for you is that we're for now going to divide that by 1 billion. So I'll do the math for you briefly just to make sure. $9.99 is what it will cost you with the discount code. Now I had to make sure, so I created a calc field and I did do 9.99 billion divided by 1 billion. It is indeed under $10. This is my calc field. ZCF is my naming convention and arithmetic calculation is ARC. Where's your discount code? There it is, ARC. If you could remember arithmetic calculation or just ARC, that's a discount code you need to put in when you register. That's only if you haven't registered before. If you've already registered, you don't need to register again. You actually have a $9.99 discount on that $9.99 fee for customers. Final wrap up from me. This is last month's slide. And I did say that in this show, we will reveal the third watch that we're giving away. By the way, the first 2 watches still haven't been given away, but if you want to guess on the Workday 300 and a penny, stock challenge, you'll have to go back to the previous show. They're all on YouTube. So what are we going to do on the next show? Well, for all those who register before June, there's a way in which you will be, one person will win on the next show in June an Apple Watch. You have to create your 99 page for that. And you must be present next month. That's it for me.
Who's next on today's lineup of sharing fans?
I'd like to welcome Animesh back from India. Hello, Animesh.
Hello, everyone. Welcome again. So the slide that you see is from the last month's show. Just a brief of what you need to remember about object transport. The icons, 3 main icons, which is a blue circle, which means there is something new that will be created in the target tenant. A yellow looping arrow, which means there will be something changing in the target tenant, and a cross, which says something will be removed from the dependencies of the object that you are migrating. On the right-hand side, if you'll see, there are a few things to consider. You can see that on the YouTube for the last month's show, and you'll find more details. There is a fact interesting that in 2020, on an average, there were 110,000 individual object migrations happening, which peaked up to 181K in the month of December, which means from the last time we met, there has been already 110,000 migrations happened in the entire Workday ecosystem. Now, if you'll see, I have used a community link where a discussion has been happening about a checklist, and there are 21 comments on it. On the right-hand side, it's just few comments. We can see David is also a part of it. So again, if you would like to know more about the interesting facts, you can visit this link on community, and you'll find a lot of customers sharing a lot of details on Aux and about the migration.
Yeah, Animesh, not only have there been over 110,000 object transporter migrations, I know they all go through you to make sure that they're working, but on top of that, there's this active discussion of all these little holes or things that you have to remember to do. So that's a good add-on onto your, not only your sharing here, but then also your breakout.
Thank you, David. This is one of the interesting things about object transport. Like if you'll see, there are multiple icons. One is the grade checkbox, which means that it's a required object to be migrated. You can't uncheck this box. But if you'll see, there is highlighted blue checkboxes as well. It tells you that there is a difference, which is highlighted by the yellow looping arrow. But again, if I'll view the difference report, I can see that, only the name has been changed between the source tenant and the target tenant of the calculated field. And if I do not want that name to be migrated to my target tenant, I can just uncheck that box and it will leave the migration for that particular object to happen. We have like the security, again, a very interesting thing. One of my favorites. If you'll see, there are two important domains, which is Aux for non-implementers and special Aux web services. You need to ensure that you do not have any other security group other than a recommended name, which is migration administrator, added to these security groups in view and modify and get input permissions. One more interesting fact, whenever you'll see to the special Aux web services domain within the tenant, it will always be shown as suspended, and it is an expected behavior. It gets automatically active with a active Aux session. Like as soon as you click on launch object transport, this domain becomes active automatically. And as soon as your session completes, it will be in suspended state again. Now, this is something about the SSO. By default, when you initiate object transport, it sends a redirect is equals to N in the URL. It will always be by default to log into target tenant radio button. If you are not using SSO, then you can move forward with this. But if you are using SSO enabled tenants, then you have to opt for the second option, which says use SSO and skip target tenant login, which will gonna take you to the SSO login page, and you can use your single sign-on to log in into your target tenants. This is, few customers do the IP-based restrictions on their authentication policies. So if you have any such policies set up, you need to ensure that, you are whitelisting the mentioned list of IP addresses in order to make your Aux successful. I have attached a community link as well, where you can find more details about the IP restrictions and the security of. Moving forward, we have bulk migrations. Again, this concept is interesting in itself, that you can migrate 100 objects together by creating a configuration package in which you can have different artifacts, like you can migrate integration systems, custom reports, calculated fields. And in one configuration package, you can move up to 20 different artifacts.
Got it. 20 different. So this is essentially a whole bunch of awks all put into one thing. Is that right?
That's correct, David. For an example, I have taken two calculated fields, one custom report to be migrated as a part of the configuration package. So I created a configuration package, put the artifacts there, and selected the calculated fields in the custom report. You can edit instances, you can remove it if you want from the configuration package later on. One interesting fact, that the configuration package in itself is considered as an artifact, which you can use later for future migrations. That is an interesting fact in itself. And if you'll see, once you go to the diff analysis report, you'll be able to see different sections for different artifacts, all the objects that you are trying to migrate. So you can drill into the diff analysis report individually and see what is the difference between the source and the target. We'll be talking more about it in the breakout sessions. This, I'm pretty much sure a lot of customers would be waiting for it. There is a new functionality, Aux 2.0, that is currently available only for implementers. In future, most probably mid next year, it will be available for general customers as well. And you'll be able to migrate security using Aux 2.0. I've added a community link onto it where you can find more details. And we'll be talking more about it in our breakout sessions.
Thank you, Animesh.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Animesh. Always great to have you. Who do we have next on our lineup of sharing fans?
Next, we have Brooke from Florida.
Awesome. Hi, everyone.
Welcome, Brooke.
Hi. So I will be discussing campus hiring with job and evergreen requisitions. So over the past years, I've really worked with the recruiting teams and have heard their problem around campus hiring. And the main issue has been hiring managers. So hiring managers are really unknown through the recruiting process. So they may not know it until offer, till background check. So they're really looking for flexibility within their requisitions for hiring. So a couple of solutions that I've covered with customers I've worked with is creating an evergreen requisition with a supervisory org, and then creating an evergreen without a supervisory org. So the first one, I did put all the pretty high level steps on the screen. So if anyone wanted to take a screenshot or watch this later, they could come back to the steps. But basically, you would create an evergreen requisition with a supervisory organization so that it does have that manager in the process. So you'd post that role, get all the candidates that you need. If there's any candidates you're interested in, you'd move them to offer within the evergreen. And then for this example, managers are typically, from what I've seen, a part of campus hiring. So if we want the manager a part of that offer process, you would get their e-signature in the process. And then there's also the option to default another signature in that BERT template. So it depends on your process, but a lot of it I've seen is having the manager a part of it. So once the candidate accepts that, you would hold them in that evergreen until the requisitions are created. So you either could, on step 7, create the job requisitions under an overall manager, or if you know the managers at that time, you could create for that manager as well. Something that did change 2 months ago that have really helped the recruiter and the recruiting team is changing the supervisory org on evergreen and job requisitions when you're editing. So that's really been a huge change, and now they allow for that flexibility. So if you're an offer, you could just have all the recs created under one manager and then quickly edit them instead of having to do a move workers, because that's also been a workaround that didn't really work for the team, as that doesn't usually sit with the recruiting or the talent team. Moving the candidates once you're ready to that linked requisition, and then to background check and to hire as needed. Yep. And the second solution is without a supervisory organization. So sometimes they don't need to actually have a supervisory organization, and evergreens allow you to have that flexibility. So then you can post the evergreen again, grab your candidates, move them to offer, and then just default a signature. So since you have no supervisory org in there, you wouldn't have the manager a part of that offer process. So you would want to default their signature or an HR signature, depending on your organization. So again, you'd hold those candidates in the evergreen. You could create the job requisitions with the hiring manager, or if you know all the managers at that time, again, you have the ability to edit, which is really great. And in the breakout session, we could dive into this process a little bit further and then moving them forward. Yep. And so the additional consideration, this is the part I want to call out on the first bullet. When you are creating without a supervisory organization, if your manager is a part of the process from review to offer, there really needs to either be excluded from evergreens, so adding a rule to those steps to exclude, or replacing that role for evergreens to another role. So it's not the manager. So that's a big call out, because I've seen people say, okay, well, we can just not have a supervisory org and move them to offer. Well, then you're going to have unassigned steps if your manager is a part of it. And then lastly, just another reminder that to link evergreen and job requisitions, they do need to have the same job profile. That's what links them together. So happy to discuss more in the breakout.
Thank you, Brooke.
Thanks, Brooke. That's super helpful. It looks like the chat is pretty active.
Who's next on today's fantastic lineup?
Well, we'd like to welcome Melissa from Wisconsin.
Hey, everybody. Wanted to come on here and talk about custom branded career sites. This is something that is going to become mandatory with Workday R2 2021. So wanted to just talk high level about the different enhancements, and also just bring up that this is going to be a mandatory uptake with the upcoming release. And if nothing is done, you will actually be brought back to default branding, which is no logo or banner. So even if today you have some sort of banner and logo there, if you do not set up a custom branded career site, that will go away with R2, and you will be defaulted into the Workday brand, which is no logo or banner and standard Workday colors. A couple of really nice things with the enhancements as well is they're making some really nice changes in regards to ease of use for the applicant. So one of these changes is the use of the progress bar. Previously, it was there, kind of got an idea of how far into an application you were, but now it's very clear as far as what step in the process you actually fall into. So it's really nice that you can see every single step as an applicant that you're walking through. One of the next changes is in relation to the create account option. So previously, create account was kind of buried at the bottom, wasn't really called out, didn't really tell you, do I just sign in? Do I create an account? With this new custom branded career site, they've really called out the create account, making it obvious that this is something you can select, telling you, to utilize this if you don't have an account yet. So really just some nice changes that go along with some of those other items in the custom branded career site, like default or defined colors, button shapes, header colors, different banners. So if you want to learn anything additional about, configuring that, considerations to think about, definitely join the breakout session. Otherwise, we encourage you to really start thinking about this change to the custom branded career site sooner rather than later, since it will be mandatory with 2021 R2.
Thanks, Melissa. Who's next on today's fantastic lineup of sharing fans?
Next, we have Jen from Texas.
Hello.
Hi, Jen.
I wanted to share an example of how I've started creating multi-level calc fields in Workday, in case it helps anybody else. And one of the things I've started using is Excel. And I know from training, they always said design top down, build bottom up. And so one of the things with Excel is I found it's very helpful for designing top down. And so I always start with what is the end result question I'm trying to ask, and where do I need to get to it from? So which business object is it on? And from there, then I have to look at, well, what information do I need to answer that question? And that's where I start building out some logic. And does any of it exist? So for my example, I'm trying to determine if a change job has happened for a worker recently where they went from an employment paid status to a non-employment unpaid status via change job, which happens. And so some of the information, where to get that question, I know I can't get it directly on the Workday account, but I need to get that effective date and compare it to a date 2 years ago. One of those fields already exists, the other field does not. So then the next step is to start looking at, well, where do I need to actually get the data from? And this is where I started adding in many levels to go, well, I need it on the Workday account. To get it from the Workday account off of the worker, I'm going to need to go through the pre-hire to the worker. The reason I'm going from pre-hire to worker rather than going directly to worker is I need to make sure I'm getting the right worker record, because there are both employees and contingent workers, and either one of them could be the most active worker record for a Workday account. So going through the pre-hire with an employee worker record makes it a little more foolproof to make sure I'm always getting that worker's employee. And so I start building out each row, building where am I trying to pull the information from? So far, I'm not looking at what the actual information, how to get it, more just how to get to it and where it's coming from. So in this case, I'm using a series of lookup related values to pull the data from another object up to where I need it. Now that I can get to that object where I'm on, so from Workday account to pre-hire to worker, I can start looking at staffing events and how to get the right staffing event, because a staffing event could be multiple different types, is using the extract single instance, where I can evaluate all of the staffing events, use a true false to determine which staffing events I care about. From there, I can use the staffing history prove, that's all the staffing events. And I know I need to have a true false that doesn't exist yet, and sort it by effective date descending to get the first occurrence. That gets me the most recent one. So I also have to create that true false, which is where the actual beef of the logic is. And thankfully, in this case, all of the fields I needed for it already existed. So I'm looking for, it is a change job or a transfer. And my job family groups went from a paid version to a non-paid version.
Now, Jen, when you did this during the Workday customer networking, there was also a date -1. Is that not in this example, or is
I actually don't need that for this case, because I realized with the staffing event history, I can use current and proposed, and that takes care of the date -1.
Got it.
So that's part of when I started building out the rest of this after the networking, I was able to realize, oh, I'm on staffing history. I'm only looking at change jobs. Current and proposed are going to work just fine. I got it built out from the top down in Excel, which actually made it really easy when I hop into Workday to start building from the bottom up. And so the next slide shows what I end up with in Workday, which is the calc field hierarchy, and can show the different levels of the calculated fields to get from the worker to being able to answer the question I need to answer on the Workday account.
Yeah, Jen, when we had in the networking, we asked people who know calc fields to help. There were several beginners. What was your one suggestion for beginners? 2 of the people said, well, go to that calculated field hierarchy because it helps. So what you have on the left is essentially what you also have in your Excel. It's just shown visually differently, right?
Exactly.
Nice. Thank you, Jen.
Great. Thank you so much. That was really helpful. Who's next on today's lineup?
Next, we'd like to welcome Shannon back from California. Hi, Shannon.
Hello.
Hey, Shannon, this one, I threw this one into your slides because I think it was kind of a famous moment for you, right? Because I put the title here, you were on the show 2 months ago, and then last month, someone who appreciated what you offered to customers showed how he used it. I don't, do you want to just briefly explain what happened here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was really happy to be included in the show to talk about ERP Helper, which is a plugin that helps with developing integrations. Yeah, it was something that I'd done on that previous show, and then it got brought up when we were talking about a next in the next show where there was a discussion, and actually my plugin was being used. And so it was a great continuation to see sort of I shared something and then someone else shared something that included my share. So it's great that we can kind of continue to move these sharing opportunities forward.
Yeah, and Shannon, I know you might be modest about this, but what I remember Todd saying last month is I've been waiting my entire workday life for this, Shannon. So thank you.
Yeah, I've got that engraved somewhere now.
Okay, all right. So now you have something yet even better or new or different.
Yeah, I wanted to just share, I'm always looking for interesting things to work on. And this is something that I had been playing with in my own company. And I wanted to share this. So doing a mail merge in the cloud, and I know a lot of us have experience doing, mail merges, on the desktop with Word in the old days. And now we have document generation and with the reference letters and so on within Workday. And this is just another option. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is it's really a proof of concept to show off using Microsoft Power Automate. So that's the MPA here. Microsoft Power Automate is a tool that you may already have access to. If your company has an Office 365 subscription, it could be something that your administrator can just point you to. Often the URL flow.microsoft.com will get you there. But anyway, this tool allows you to extract data. And yeah, please feel free to go to the next slide where we can show. We're just going to start out with a general normal RAS report here in Workday. It has some general data that we might use for a normal letter. And we're going to API enable it. So we'll get the JSON web API link to that.
Shannon, just a quick question. I could see all these people live on the same address on Sesame Street. I just want to make sure that's not private data. Are those famous people in the Sesame Street world?
They love Sesame Street, but no, actually it's a combination. We've got Star Trek characters and Sesame Street together. Don't know if that's ever been done.
All right, I'm beaming you up.
A first. Okay. Here's something new that I learned. Like I said, I started out with mail merge, I think with Word 6 years ago. Now, Microsoft has developed a new way to put tags in your Word documents. And it's, basically you're creating a form in Word. So I had to learn this, and I've included the link to the Microsoft page that shows you how to do it. But it's a similar concept. It's not just the old mail merge. But anyway, you create this Word form, and here's where you can develop a flow within Microsoft Power Automate. So what I'm doing is I'm going to, at the very top here, so the slide is in 3 parts. The left-hand side is the entire flow, and then the middle and the right-hand side break out pieces a little bit more. The top part is important because that allows you to input your Workday username and password. And you'll see there's a little padlock there at the top. That means that when this flow runs, it's not going to output that data to the output of the flow. So just to keep things a little more secure, I'm grabbing the time just so I can include that in the document name at the end. I'm doing a call to Workday using that report URL that we grabbed earlier. And one critical part here is I'm going to parse the JSON, and I am going to pull that JSON that comes out of Workday and turn it into an object within Power Automate. And that's the sort of the secret here that allows you to, in the next step, loop through each one of those objects. And each one of those is a report entry. And if you migrate over to the right-hand side of this slide, you'll see the end result is you can actually connect those fields. And the important part here is I'm connecting to OneDrive. So the output is pulling in the template from OneDrive. And then on the left-hand side there, where you see on the left-hand side of the populated Microsoft Word template, the name, address block, first name, and job profile, those are the tags that I put into my Word form. So it automatically recognizes those.
So I'm going to go back.
Them.
I'll go.
Yeah. So you can see, on that Word template, you can see first name, job profile, the address block. Those are the tags that I put into that template. And now they're appearing automatically just because I've referenced that template. They're appearing as those labels on that part of it. And then,
okay, now I know you're going pretty fast, but you'll go into more details during the breakout. But for some people who aren't sure, they are like following what JSON is, it's in the middle here on the bottom. If you don't know how to spell JSON, but you know how to spell XML, that's essentially with a Workday report, with a RAS, you don't have to use what Workday typically gives by default, XML. You could use this other format. And I'm assuming, is JSON required instead of XML, or is it just easier?
It's just easier in this case because Power Automate has built-in actions, and this particular action is easy to grab. And I will go into more detail in the breakout session, but the big thing is if you can do advanced Excel, you can do Power Automate, and there are many more actions that you can take in addition to what I showed today.
Okay, Shannon, I look forward to next month when somebody else gives you a big thank you for explaining all this to them.
That would be fantastic.
Okay, thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And who do we have next?
Next, we'd like to welcome Dawn. Dawn, are you on?
I am. Hello, everybody. Excited to be here on the Sharing Show.
Welcome back, Dawn. For your title here on the agenda on the left, I put sooner than later.
I like it.
Okay, this is why.
Yes, very excited. Hello, everybody. I'm one of the hosts for our customer monthly networking, which is the first Thursday of the month. And sooner rather than later, we've moved the time a little earlier. Actually, you might recognize that same time as the Sharing Show time. So noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. We're also hoping to involve more of those across the pond who want to get in on the networking. We've been networking monthly for 7 months, and we had 473 folks on the line last month. So it's a great opportunity to choose which breakout room topic you want to join, share and ask questions of each other so that we can help each other. And here you'll see a variety of the topics. Highlighted are some of the nuances, new topics that we're adding in June. I take your feedback very seriously from this meeting. So when there are ideas and topics on what we could do differently or add, we can certainly improvise and make that adjustment. And so with recruiting as well as financials, we found if we could drill in a little bit more, that can help with that purposeful discussion.
All right, Dawn, and this is good because recruiting is large. We had 2 different recruiting sharing on this show, but the breakout for recruiting includes everything. So these 3 as well as the 2 that you just heard.
And these are just a couple of the from past participants getting that great value like you do on the Sharing Show to be able to ask and help each other out. One of my favorite ones is it helps me confirm I'm not crazy. Thanks, David.
Thanks, Dawn. I love that.
Okay, and if everyone's ready, you will see in the chat the different Zoom rooms, and you can join the one that suits you best.
All right, so these are the 4 Zoom breakout rooms. All right, Kane, let's wrap up.
Excellent. Thank you, David. Thank you, Logan, Teresa, and special thank you to our guests for speaking on the show today. As always, we will publish this episode on YouTube. So head over there, click on like and subscribe, and you'll be able to get notified when new episodes are uploaded. I will end the show out, but we'll come back after the end screen has come up. So all that's left to say is everybody have a great work day.